And I confess to you that I was caught by surprise yesterday with their decision and the day before yesterday. And even more, what's sad is that there are Brazilians, I'm not going to mention names here, Brazilians fueling this fight with the idea that if he taxes us, he'll harm a presidential candidacy, you know? This idiot doesn't realize it's the people being harmed, not Lula. In other words, asking for punishment for the country with the intention of defeating a candidacy or gaining an advantage. It's extremely rude. I can't find another word for it, except to say that in any other country in the world, at any other moment in history, this would be called treason against the homeland. This would be called treason against the homeland. That's what they did. There's no explanation for it. There's nothing in sociology, no explanation for the behavior of a group of people in positions of responsibility like these. So you ministers can't stop saying this, okay? You have to say it loud and clear. They're trying to betray Brazil with petty interests, with lowly interests from an electoral dispute. And there is no electoral dispute in any country in the world that can value someone who betrays their homeland. Someone who is capable of selling out their country for interest in the government. Someone who betrays their homeland. Someone who is capable of selling out their country for his own petty interests. This Marco Rubio doesn't like Latin America, and even less Brazil. He is a frustrated Latin American. I'm not sure if he was born in Cuba. It seems he wasn't. It appears his parents were born in Cuba. So his behavior towards Latin America, I even hope that our Senate, especially Jacques Wagner, responds. He said yesterday in the Senate that he is very happy because they are managing to do it. Latin America, except for Brazil, except for Nicaragua, except for Cuba, and except for Colombia, is bringing Latin America much, much closer to the United States. They don't know that we already know that before this move of theirs, this country was the victim of a coup in 1964, and at that time it was orchestrated by American ambassadors in Brazil. We know that. So it's important that they know we know the history. It's important that they know we don't want war. It's important that they know we want to build the true narrative of a relationship that has lasted for 201 years. Which, therefore, is a new relationship, and we want to strengthen our institutional relationship with the United States. We are very big, we have a lot of history, and we cannot accept the treatment that the United States gave Brazil this week. It's not possible. No one can say that Brazil refused to negotiate with the United States. Since President Trump's first tweet, since the very first tweet, it was a statement contrary to what democracy and civility demand. A president calls the other president or sends an official letter. I found out about the tariff for the first time through Twitter, and a tariff grounded in truth. Because the deficit that the United States says it has with Brazil is actually the deficit that Brazil has against them. Therefore, if anyone had to impose a tariff, it should be Brazil imposing it on the United States, not the United States on Brazil. That's why we were surprised by yet another announcement, by yet another tariff imposed on Brazil. Then I handed 4 documents to President Trump, stating the topics we would like to discuss with him, obviously. 4 topics. One was the fight against drug trafficking and organized crime. A document was delivered. Another was the trade issue. A document was delivered. The agreement Brazil and Turkey made with Iran in 2010 regarding uranium enrichment, which is better than what they did, I also delivered it to Trump. Here is the document. And I also delivered our report on the issues of rare earths and critical minerals. All of this was delivered. I'm going to repeat something here that I said the first time I received the tweet from President Trump. Trump was elected by the American people, and I respect the American electoral result. I was elected by the Brazilian people. He has to respect the vote of the Brazilian people. I was not elected emperor of Latin America, let alone was Trump elected emperor of the world. What I hope for, and have been pleading for some time now, is that the 5 members of the UN Security Council, England, France, Russia, China, and the United States, the permanent members, remember that it was created to maintain peace on planet Earth. That they have the ability to meet and discuss what their role is, whether it is to maintain peace or to promote war. Especially because the wars that are happening are unilateral decisions. Nobody asked anyone to start a war. The countries decide and act, and we want peace. We want progress. We want development. We want to improve the quality of life of the Brazilian people, and we will do that until the end. I will still reach out to President Trump. I will send another letter. I will write as many articles as necessary in the American press and the international press to show that they are wrong, that they are mistaken, and that they are leading the world into unnecessary violence. And they all know that if we have a more serious conflict where it's necessary to use nuclear weapons, no country is going to win. We are destroying planet Earth. And Brazil will always stand against that. Because for us, it's either peace or it's nothing. And we want peace. And then regarding trade, it's important to remind our business people here, it's important to remind our colleagues who work in trade. The United States, that's the issue. They have the right not to want it. Now, we're not going to keep complaining. We will look for another partner. If he doesn't want to buy, we'll sell to whoever wants to buy. We're not going to keep complaining. If they don't want to invest here, we'll look for someone else. What you need to know is that Brazil is its own boss. This is a democratic and sovereign country. And because of this sovereignty, we will do whatever is necessary. We will not give in. Anyone who wants to explore rare earths here will have to talk to the Brazilian government. Anyone who wants to explore critical minerals will have to start talking to the Brazilian government. That's it, that's it. You know? That story about taking all our gold to pay Portugal's debt to England, you know? Then taking all the iron ore like they still do, and we get less than we should for it. We decided that this country will no longer adopt a submissive policy toward the great powers. We are not better than anyone else, but we're not worse either. So in this meeting here, it's about getting everyone's message straight. No one has to be afraid of anything, because we're not going to bow our heads. We're going to keep doing what we know how to do. We're going to keep talking to everyone. And I wasn't even going to the G7, but now I will. I wasn't going to go, but now I'm going to the G7. Because it's necessary, someone has to try to bring order to the House and put an end to what's happening. Of the dismantling of multilateralism, the dismantling of democracy, and the devaluation of institutions. If the UN isn't working today, destroying the UN won't fix the world. It's by strengthening the UN. And what has Brazil been demanding for a long time? It has been demanding that there be more countries as permanent members of the Security Council. Brazil is advocating for this. We have the G4, which is Brazil, Germany, Japan, and India. We want a country like Mexico or another Latin American country to join. We want an African country to join. The geopolitics of 1945 is not the same as in 2026, and who can decide that? It's the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. It's not us. We're almost 200 countries, but we have no say. We just make speeches. The ones who decide are the 5 members, and it's time for us to make them take responsibility to improve life on planet Earth.